Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. I've had a million requests to update our budget Werewolves deck now that Eldritch Moon is out. For reference, here's a link for you. We came out with it a few months ago and it was pretty sweet, not gonna lie. The version we're talking about today, $25 to build, that's it. To make sure this list stays on budget, we'll be using TCG player prices throughout the entire video, and if you click the first link in the description, you can see the deck list and buy any cards you want for it. Easy enough. Now, while Ulrich isn't exactly the most exciting werewolf to ever exist, Eldritch Moon did bring with it some sweet playable werewolf cards. In this video, we're doing a complete makeover of the budget werewolf strategy for standard and going in a totally different direction. By that I mean we're removing red entirely and going mono green. Before you freak out, give me a chance to explain. If you enjoy videos like this and want more of them in the future, please hit the like button, helps out a lot. So why are we going mono green? Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of fun werewolf cards in red. There are, we ran a lot of them last time around. After some significant testing though, mono green is just more consistent, it's safer, and it plays much better when trying to flip your wolves. Red werewolf variants want you to keep playing werewolves on your turn every turn, preventing your own wolves from ever flipping. By going mono green, as you'll see in a little bit, we're working to circumvent that issue. Plus, I honestly don't think we need red anymore. Before we get into all that, let's take a look at our land base. We're running 3 Foundry of the Consuls as our non-basics, and then 19 forests. 22 lands in total. The Foundry is a nice late game mana sink when we don't have anything else to do, plus adding in purely colorless mana sources really isn't a problem when the deck is mono green, gives us a little bit more reach. Moving on to creatures, we'll begin at the bottom of our curve and move up as per usual. The only one drop we're running is Kessig Prowler, the new Werewolf Eldrazi horror freak show from Eldritch Moon. Being a 2-1 for 1 already has value for us. Early attacker is great. Being able to transform it late game into something equally relevant, very cool. This solves the whole top decking a 1-drop late game issue. Now if you do, you at least have something to use it for. Sinuous Predator is a strong card, especially against creature-based decks where said creatures can't 1 versus 1 a 4/4, which this card forces you to do. For a 1-drop 2-1, an amazingly complex and great include. Our 2-drop slot begins with a playset of Duskwatch Recruiter, arguably one of the best uncommons in Standard right now. The Recruiter fits in perfectly here. Not only is it a werewolf, it's a fairly costed werewolf with a crazy strong pseudo card draw ability. To be honest, the Recruiter may be one of the most important cards in this deck simply because of that ability. Even the Kralin Horde Howler has serious value. If you're building a werewolf deck, Duskwatch Recruiter is a wonderful addition. Pseudo card draw and cost reduction for your wolves on the backside, easy choice. Our other auto-include 2-drop is Lambholt Pacifist. 2 mana for a 3/3 makes a great defender in the current meta of 2/3s. All you need after that is 4 power and it can go on the attack. This is one of those werewolves that punishes your opponent for having nothing to do on turn 2 when you're on the play. You drop the Pacifist past turn, if they have nothing, you untap with a 4/4 and no downside. Absolutely brutal. Forces your opponent to play to your speed, which is always good. The 3-drop slot is where the real power of our deck lies. We'll begin with a playset of Silver for Partisan. This 3-mana 2/2 Trampler most definitely deserves a spot in this deck. Now we're not running that funny Zadahedron grinder deck, but that doesn't mean the Partisan is any less good. There are plenty of targets for the card in our decks as you'll see in a bit. No reason not to run it since it will at some point give you free 2/2 wolves, can't say no to that. Next up, we're running a pair of Shrill Howler. This may seem out of nowhere for many of you, but this is mainly an answer to the current meta full of 2/3 creatures. 3 mana for a 3/1 isn't all that great, but it can't be blocked by anything with less power than it. Tell that to a Band Company player and it almost has straight unblockable. If you get the chance to flip it late game, not only is it going to punish those same decks, but it dodges Languish all on its own, and it gives you 3/2s whenever you get through. Very good against creature-based decks that run low to the ground. Again, Shrill Howler may not normally get in this list, but in the current Standard environment, I believe it has some additional value. Our last 3-drop and one of my favorite new additions to the deck is Spirit of the Hunt. Now, I know it was our preview card, but I promise I'm not being biased here. 3 mana for a 3/3 wolf already has value. When it enters the battlefield, your other wolves get +0/+3 until end of turn. Okay, not bad. What pushes this over the top? Flash. Flash makes this card amazing. Spirit of the Hunt can flash in to protect your entire team from Languish, except your little Kessig Prowler and Shrill Howler if they're still front-faced. But besides them, saves everything. Even if your opponent Kozilek's returns, it still saves most of your creatures if they're transformed. Spirit of the Hunt makes for a great toughness-based removal counter, definitely worthy of inclusion. We're also running 3-Pack Guardian. Now this is where we really start to see why we're running mono green. Flash is a strong keyword to have, especially in a deck that's looking to manipulate turns. Werewolves want to flip. You want to flip your recruiters and pacifists. By not playing werewolves on your turn, you force your opponent to interrupt the transformation. If they don't, it's their problem, not yours. Pack Guardian, in addition to Spirit of the Hunt, will be played on your opponent's turn to allow you more chances to flip your wolves. Plus, Pack Guardian dodges Languish really well and sticks 6 power on the field for 4 mana, so seems good. The last creature in our deck is one of Decimator of the Provinces. This isn't a card you want to rely on to win the game every game, but wow is it explosive. If you find yourself in a game where the board is locked down, Decimator of the Provinces will unlock it for you, giving your entire team mini overrun in addition to a 7/7 trampling haste creature. Not sure your opponent can survive that. Again, not a card you want in your opening hand, but certainly something that's nice to draw in the mid to late game. That's going to do it for the 26 creatures. We're running 12 non-creature, non-land cards, and each of them is really strong. We'll begin with 4 Howlpack Resurgence. Couldn't imagine running Werewolves without this card, especially the version we're running. All your wolves get +1/+1 and have trample, and the enchantment has flash for sweet combat trick shenanigans. Yes, all the yes, this is definitely something you need for some extra reach. With this in play, Spirit of the Hunt now saves your team from Kozilek's return. That's cool. Beyond that, the additional power and toughness, in addition to trample, should give you an advantage in combat. If not, you could always just, drop a second one. It isn't legendary. Go crazy. It's such a good card. We're also running 2 Waxing Moon. Now, I was going back and forth with this card for a while, but I think it's worth including because we're running both Kessig Prowler and Shrill Howler. If we're only running one, I'd probably avoid it, but I think the Howler makes it worth it. Not only will this transform your Recruiter and Pacifist if you want, it'll also cheapen your transform cost on your 2 Eldrazi Werewolves. That's its real purpose. Being able to turn your Prowler into the Predator for 2 mana instead of 5 seems good. Shrill Howler transform for 2 mana instead of 6? Yeah, I think you'll take it. Giving trample is just a nice bonus, and at instant speed, hollow combat tricks, so good. The rest of the deck is straight removal. We're running 4 Moonlight Hunt and 2 Prey Upon. Moonlight Hunt is the auto-include removal in the deck. You're running a werewolf deck. If there was ever a payoff card for running this strategy, it would be Moonlight Hunt. 2 mana, instant speed, can take down pretty much anything since it's a dog pile. Insanely good. Prey Upon, on the other hand, that one is up for contention, but I understand the hesitation. It is sorcery speed, but think about this. If it weren't for sorcery speed, Prey Upon would be broken. I think the card type makes it a fair card. You aren't running 4 because that's too many, but I think you need more removal than just Moonlight Hunt, and I think while being a sorcery, Prey Upon is the most efficient removal spell we're going to get for this type of strategy. It's been working well for me, so I'm a fan. Now that you've seen the entire deck, let's review our choices. We're playing mono-green werewolves instead of red-green for a few reasons. First, I see no reason not to include any of the werewolves we're running. In testing, Silver for Partisan was probably the weakest wolf we're playing, and even then, the thing created a ton of wolves thanks to its ability. Red does bring a lot of explosiveness with it, but only if you can actually flip the werewolves. We ran red-green back in Shadows because green simply didn't have the depth to go it alone. It has that depth now. With the additions of Kessig Prowler, Shrill Howler, and Spirit of the Hunt, I see no reason to add in red anymore, especially if it's a budget deck. I've heard some arguments for Ovenwald Captive. No, this isn't something we want. We don't want the mana ramp, we don't want Defender, we need to attack. Alright, while I never give you a solid sideboard list, I do have suggestions for you so you can craft your own. Clip Wings is the bomb against Avacyn. She is not fun to play against, and you're gonna need to deal with her somehow. Spirit of the Hunt deals with her transform trigger, but for her herself, Clip Wings. Display of Dominance is awesome tech against Liliana the Last Hope, Ob Nixilis, Sorin, basically the black walkers that you really don't want to see from white-black control. Aerial Volley is an interesting choice if you see spirits running around in your local meta. Clip Wings is good enough for Avacyn, but if you're up against the Flying Dead army, then Aerial Volley is sweet tech. Evolutionary Leap is actually pretty decent against any type of control strategy. It's going to make their removal a lot worse if you can just get rid of whatever they want to get rid of first while simultaneously refueling your hand. It's a battle of attrition they aren't going to win. The last sideboard tech I recommend is more Shrill Howler against any Collected Company decks. Not joking, the card's the bee's knees against company. It's so good. I think that's going to do it. What do you think of our mono green take on Werewolves? Is this a deck that you'd be interested in playing? I know you lose some cool cards by cutting red, but I honestly think that this version is more consistent in a lot of ways and gives you a lot more the red-green version doesn't. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments and we'll talk about it. Werewolves have a special place in my heart after all. Also, if you want to see the entire deck list or buy any of the cards we talked about because they're stupidly cheap, make sure to click the first link in the description. Everything is right there for you. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.